down. All right, here we go. So number one, it says write an equation of the line with a slope of -2 and a y-intercept of 3. So what you have to know, because this today is all talking about slope-intercept form, is y equals mx plus b. All right, someone online, can you please unmute yourself and shout out online? Which letter is a slope?
M.
Okay, so M is always the slope. Someone else shout out. What letter is always the y-intercept?
B.
B. Thank you. So this is your slope. This is your y-intercept. All right, so when it says write an equation in a line with a slope of -2 and a y-intercept of 3, they're saying your M, which is your slope, is -2, and your B, which is the y-intercept, is 3. So someone in person, can you raise your hand and tell us what is this answer? What's the equation? Because it has to look like this, but with these numbers. Reed, what do you think?
Y equals -2x plus 3.
-2x plus 3. Perfect. And that's it. Okay, so that's number one. All right, let's take a look at number 2. Now this time we still want to write it in slope-intercept form, but I don't really know what the slope and the y-intercept is because they don't just spell it out for me. So I have to figure that out in this picture. Okay, so my slope I have to figure out, remember, which is the M, and the y-intercept, which I have to figure out, which is the B. Okay, one of these are very, very, very obvious. You can just look at it and you can figure it out. Can someone raise their hand and tell us one of these answers just by looking at it? Luis? Yeah, remember how we said the y-intercept is always 0, something? So look at where your line hits the y-axis. It's at 0, -1. It says it right here. It's not a fraction. It's not a decimal. It's a whole number, and you can see it right here. Okay, my slope is a little bit trickier to do. Does anyone think they know how to do it or what the answer is? Ashlyn? Okay, so remember, slope is the same thing as doing rise over run. So normally I like to start from the bottom dot. I have to really make sure I'm counting by ones so I don't get tricked. Yeah, I'm counting by ones on the y-axis. I'm counting by ones on the x-axis. So my rise is 4. My run is 5. I cannot simplify 4/5 as a fraction. If you truly don't know, can I simplify 4/5? Then type it in your calculator. Alpha y equals enter. 4/5, what does that equal? Oh, it equals 4/5. Okay. Please do not write this. Please do not write this as a decimal. I know you can write 0.8, but for this chapter, let's leave them as fractions because you're going to be graphing a lot too. So if you leave it as a decimal, 0.8, how many do you rise? How many do you run? Like, it's very obvious. You rise 4, you run 5. So just leave everything as fractions now, okay? If you did not want to do it Ashlyn's way, you just had a brain fart and you're like, oh, I don't remember rise over run. Remember, you can always go 0, -1, 5, 3. You don't have to write this down, but this is another way to find slope. x1, y1, x2, y2. Remember, y sub 2 minus y sub 1, divide x sub 2 minus x sub 1, 3 minus -1, 5 minus 0, that's still 4/5. You still get the same answer. Okay, there's many, many, many different ways to find slope. You don't have to do it this way if you don't want to. But anyways, now I have my 2 pieces of information. Can someone raise their hand and tell us? What is my final answer? Kip.
Y equals 4/5 x plus -1.
You can say plus -1, or it's the same thing as just saying -1. So you don't have to write plus -1 at the end. You could also write -1. It's the same thing. Perfect. Great. Any questions? Okay, last one. This one's a little bit trickier. It's probably the hardest one in the whole lesson, okay? Write an equation of the line that passes through blank and blank. So, you know your answer is going to look like this. You have 2 numbers to fill in. Vaughn? Yes? Question? Answer? Question? Okay. Does someone think they have part of it? Perhaps? What do we think? Cameron? Okay, how do you know that this one is -5? So remember how we said y-intercept is always 0, comma something? So look for the point that says 0, comma something, and then that would be that. Okay, now my slope, it doesn't say. I have to figure it out. Does anyone know how to figure it out? Tessa? Oh, okay, x1. So how do you know? So for your slope, you have to use a formula. You can't do rise over run because it's not graphed. So here's x1, y1. Here's x2, y2. If you really wanted to, you can name this one x1, y1, and then name this one x2, y2. It really doesn't matter. As long as your ones are with the ones and the twos are with the twos. So slope formula, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1, and plug it in. So I have 7 minus -5 on top. Be careful with that. It's 7 minus -5. And then on the bottom, it's 4 minus 0. Okay, please don't use your brain. Sometimes when you use your brain too hard, it like defaults and then you mess up. You make a really silly mistake. Just type it in. 7 minus -5 on top. On the bottom, 4 minus 0. It will do all the negatives for you. It will do all the simplifying. 3. So my answer is 3. Now, some of you are still kind of shaky on this. Like you're not very confident in your math skills. Let me tell you how you can double check your answer, okay? If you think your answer is y equals 3x plus -5, let's double check. So let's go to the y equals and graph it. So it's 3x. I'm not going to say plus -5. I'm just going to write -5. Okay. Some of you were having issues yesterday with your minuses and negatives. Some of you, instead of writing 3x minus 5, you wrote 3x -5. Okay, I want you to see the difference. You see how minus is longer? If I were to type negative, you see how the negative is shorter and a little bit higher? So you'll notice that your graph looks different. 3x -5 looks like that. But 3x minus 5 looks like, oh, darn it. I forgot to. Okay, -5. 3x minus 5 looks like that. Like, you see how they look completely different? So you would get completely different answers. The minus and the negative are completely different. If you wrote 3x -5, they think that you're just saying, oh, my equation is -15x. Like you're multiplying, but you're not. You're subtracting the 5, not multiplying by the 5. Okay, but how do I double check my answer? So I think my answer is 3x minus 5, and I know that it has to go through these 2 points, so that's how I can double check. 0, comma, -5, is that a point? Yes. 4, comma, 7, is that a point? Yes. So I know that I got it right. Okay, I have one more to do with you, so go to the back side. This one is trickier, okay? Let's write the points 1, comma, 3, and give me 2 numbers. I don't care. 5, comma, what?
4.
4. Great. Okay, let's find the equation of this line. This is not so obvious anymore because there's not a 0, comma something. So you did this last year for sure, and I know you did this on your video notes, but let's just practice it one more time. Okay, I know that this is my equation. I have to fill in a slope number, and I have to fill in the y-intercept number. Does anyone have any idea how I can start this problem? Fun. Okay, she said you have to start by finding the slope. Yes, that's the only first step you can take. Any other first step, I don't think you would get the right answer. So let's find the slope. X1, Y1, X2, Y2. Plug it in your slope formula. Y sub 2 minus Y sub 1 over X sub 2 minus X sub 1. So you get 4 minus 3 over 5 minus 1. The math is a little bit easier, but just maybe double check in your calculator just in case. You get 1/4. Okay, so your slope is 1/4. I know my slope is 1/4. Yay, I'm halfway done. But I still don't know what my y-intercept is. Does anyone have any idea? How can I figure out what the y-intercept is? What do we see? Cooper, did you have your hand raised?
You have to plug it in.
Okay, what do you mean by plug it in?
Basically, you have to write the equation with one of the ordered pairs, but leaving out the y-intercept trying to solve it.
Perfect. Exactly. That's the only way. So this is what Cooper is saying. To find the y-intercept, you so far have y equals 1/4 x plus, I don't know that. So let's just say that's b. That's like my unknown. Cooper is saying take one of these points, any one, I don't know. So let's just choose this one. And that's my x and that's my y and plug it in for my x and y. I could choose the 5 and the 4 if I wanted to. I could choose the 1 and the 3. Normally, I like to choose the one that doesn't have negatives, that's all positives, no decimals. Well, both of them are. So instead of the y, I write the 3. 1/4 times x. Instead of x, I write the 1 and then plus b. So do you see what I did? I took a point and I plugged it in as my x and my y. So now what I can do is I can solve for b. So I have 3 equals 1/4 times 1 is just 1/4 plus b. And then I have to solve for b. So I'm going to subtract both sides by 1/4. So I get b equals 3 minus 1/4 is 2 3/4. But if you don't know that, then you can always type it in your calculator, right? 3 minus 1/4. It actually is better to just type it in your calculator because then it changes it to an improper fraction, 11/4. And normally now that you're in higher level math, improper fractions are always better than mixed numbers. You really don't want to write 2 3/4. Like that's just kind of weird now. Use mixed numbers if you have like a word problem and you want to say, oh, I have 2 3/4 bananas, or I don't know. But if you're just doing like a normal basic math problem, then leave it as an improper, 11/4. And then that would be your answer. Okay? Any questions?